GitHub.
I just don't.
At the camera.
I just don't know what it is.
Can I have one of the officers, Andrew, you're close, can you check that the stream is functional? And also, can I have preferably one of the officers be a designated representative to the chat? We have, I think, quite a few people coming on the stream today. Ethan, cool. Can you make sure that I know when someone is posting questions to the chat? Because I think that might be a bit of a possibility today. Sure. Thank you, Ethan. So far everything seems fine. Stream's up. You can hear me? Cool. Good. Yeah. So please go ahead and go to node.js.org. That is going to be where you can install Node. You're also going to be installing NPM, which is Node's package manager. Go ahead and start that, just so that we're ready to go once we start typing code. Because you can never really tell with the internet in here if you're going to be able to install something quick enough. After you install Node, go ahead and make your way to the notes. The notes are going to be really important today because there's a lot of syntactic weirdness, and I want to make sure that we're minimizing syntactic errors. So I'm actually going to have us copying a lot of lines of code. I'll be explaining what the code does, don't worry, but it's the most reasonable course of action is honestly just going to be copy-paste. Any questions thus far?
Is ketchup Turing complete? Somebody asked in the chat.
Is ketchup Turing complete? I mean, that'd be pretty saucy. Let's see, I think you're going to have to take theoretical foundations of condiments for that one. We have snacks up here at the front. Please feel free to grab snacks. Alright, so I'm going to let y'all work on installing Node for a bit. But in the meantime, I want to introduce kind of what Electron is and what we'll be doing with Electron today. Electron is a framework for JavaScript. It's designed so that you can easily create desktop applications using web development technologies. So if you already have some experience with HTML and CSS, those skills port over directly to Electron. It is awesome. So Electron, what it's doing is it's spinning up a window of the Chromium browser, and it's just loading your HTML pages, and that's it. That's the trick. So 90% of your Electron development time is actually going to be in stuff you would already be doing with web development, and then 10% of it or so is like actual Electron stuff. And so if you've ever used for instance, the Atom text editor or the Slack desktop app, Skype desktop app, or Discord desktop app, those are all created with Electron. Those applications are secretly just browsers running web pages. It's awesome. So people develop in Electron because the familiar technologies enable good code reuse, right? You can imagine like the Discord app. The code for the Discord app isn't going to be fundamentally that much different from the web app for Discord. So you can promote code reuse. You can also reuse a lot of the same packages, libraries, right? There's extensive technology out there for web development, and you can use all of that, right? If you're familiar with React and Redux, for instance, then you can use that too. It's so cool. And another thing that allows is it allows developer reuse because you don't have to train people in a new language. You can just keep them using stuff they know well. It was created by GitHub, Electron was, as they were creating their Atom text editor. They had a whole bunch of web developers, and they were like, gee, wouldn't it be nice if we could use these web developers to actually create a desktop app? And so that's where Electron came from, and that's why it was originally called Atom Shell, by the way. Yeah, but also you have a lot of the downsides of web development too. Like, for instance, it gets really bloated really quickly. So that's a genuine reason why you might not be interested in Electron. Also, Electron tends to be a few versions behind in the Chromium browser. So there's a vulnerability found in Chromium. It's going to take a little while for Electron to play catch-up. So yeah, that is a brief introduction to Electron, what it is, and how it might be used. we're going to be creating a to-do application. So I actually have our to-do application running, or I did. I guess it closed out on me. But you can see we now have this check mark here in the corner. It's really small, but if I click it, you have this beautiful application. You can delete tasks, and then if you right-click down here, you get a little window that you can add a new to-do. And so it gets added to the list. And that's what we're going to be building over the course of this hour. Yeah, any questions at this point? Anything in the chat?
No.
Okay, cool. Right, so these notes, we're going to be following through them a lot. So, is anyone having any issues getting Node installed? Alright, so we can check to make sure that Node is indeed installed by running the command. Oh, yeah, cool. I'm gonna just. You can run the command node-v. And if you get a version number, like I've got version 8.9.0, then you know that Node is installed and is working just fine.
Ben, I noticed if
Yes.
anyone's on Ubuntu, the default one actually uses, the executable name is Node.js instead of just Node.
Okay.
So if you're on Ubuntu, you'd have to use Node.js.
Alright, I did not know that. How's it going? Cool. So the next thing that we're going to do, if you're in this Electron Codelab repository, you should see there's this nice, beautiful green button. We're just going to download the zip. If you're familiar with Git, by all means, go ahead and clone the repository. But honestly, we're only going to use like 2 or 3 files out of it. So it's just going to be easier if you just download it. And so I've got it downloaded. It's coming up. And I've got, you can see I've got this blank Electron folder here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the zip folder that I just downloaded. I'm going to go into resources, and I'm just going to drag these 3 files over into the Electron folder, and I can close out of this. This is just going to be our workspace. So I'll let y'all catch up with that, but I do kind of want to show you what it is that we've got in this already. So, like I said, 90% of Electron development is just going to be web development, but because I want to focus on what makes Electron tick, I've actually already taken care of the web development stuff for you. So we have 2 HTML files. The main one that we're going to be dealing with is index.html. You can see this already has a list of the to-dos. You can remove to-dos from the list. It's pretty awesome. Then the other HTML file that you've got is called add.html, and all this is just a form. You can input, as 3 L's, you can input things into the form, you can hit submit, nothing happens, and if you are interested in looking at the code for that, I do recommend it, because we are going to be tinkering with this HTML later. So the way this is just basically working, I'm in index.html right now. The way this is basically working, we have our to-dos are saved. I'm going to make this bigger. Our to-dos are saved in an array. We have an add item function that just adds an item to the array. And we have a remove item function that removes an item from the array. And then we have a function that will take whatever's in that array and convert it to the HTML table that we see on the web page. And when the window loads, it just hard-codedly adds in 3 tasks. So that's all that's happening right now, but that is the basic web development functionality that we're going to need on this side of things. The add.html, we can take a look at this, and all this is your standard HTML form. It has a nice button. You click the button, and all this does is prevents the page from automatically refreshing whenever you hit the button. That is the basics of the HTML that we're going to be dealing with. I guess, again, do we have any questions so far?
Somebody in the chat asked how you got those 3 things.
How I got the
files.
The files? Yeah, sure. So, if you went to the notes, these notes can be available at this URL. If you're on YouTube, then the notes are actually, the link to that is in the description, so that'll be even quicker. But it'll take you to this repository, github.com/okstateacm /Codelab, or sorry, Electron Codelab, and then you can just go to clone or download. You hit download zip, and inside that zip folder you got, you're going to go into, there's only one folder in there, you go in that, and then there is a there is a resources folder that you want to go to, and that'll have the HTML files. So, yeah, I guess if I go through this process again, I download the zip, I open it up, I have this master folder, I have this resources folder, and I have the files that we'll be working with today. Sorry, I totally recognize that I might have gone through that a little fast. So, everyone caught up at this point? Cool. So now, let's do node type things. So node, if you're unfamiliar, it's a framework for JavaScript that kind of decouples JavaScript from having to be run in a browser. It's been variously described as like client-side, no, not client-side, server-side. Server-side is the term. Server-side. That just basically means it's not running in like a browser. So I'm gonna go to my codes, or to my workspace in my terminal. So for me that is CD bin desktop CD Electron. Okay, so this is my workspace, and you can see all it has is those 3 files that we extracted earlier. And before we can do anything Node-like in this, we have to tell Node that this is going to be a Node project. So for that, we're going to run the command npm space init. We'll think for a bit, and then you just get to spam enter. It's pretty awesome. They'll just give you some default values there, and by the time you're done, you can see we've got a brand new file called package.json. It has your workspace directory name right here. It's got a few other presets. Yeah, that's all generated for you by Node and NPM. You've created a Node project. So the next thing we want to do is we want to install the Electron library that's out there on NPM. So that is going to be npm space install space -- save space Electron. Again, that's npm install space -- save Electron. You run it, it's going to think for a bit. Oh, well, that is a minor issue. So Codelab probably shouldn't name the workspace Electron. It didn't like that. Let's see, can I run this again? Cool, seems to be working. And if it works, yeah, now we've got this awesome new Node modules directory up here. There are a lot of dependencies. These are all dependencies, and they're just coming in. And we also now have, you can see in our package.json, we have a great dependencies element here. Electron version 1.7.11 or above. That's actually really important because just the other day, like yesterday, it was revealed that version 1.7.9 has a pretty critical vulnerability. That's since been patched, but you do definitely want to make sure that you're 1.7.11 or above. And we've also got this new package lock.json that we're just not going to touch at all because it's a mess. If we go back into package.json, we can see this little bit here for scripts. It's given us a default script here called test. We don't actually need test, so we're going to clear this line away. But what we are going to do is we're going to create a new script. We're going to call it Electron, : and then it's going to be Electron space dot, and save. So we've got a new script. That script is called Electron, and the way it's running is this Electron space dot. Everyone gotten to this point just fine? No?
What are you on?
This is package.json. This should have been generated for you when you did npm init. Do you not have? Does anyone not? Does anyone else not have an npm? Or sorry, does anyone else not have package.json? Okay. Did you run npm init on your workspace first?
Yeah.
I've never seen that before. Let me go over and take a look. Did you do npm init on your workspace directory in the same folder that you have your other?
I use the Node.js command. I combine it so I don't fix these two off. I know this would work.
Oh, okay. So if you're getting an error, you probably have the same error I have, which is that you called your workspace Electron. So you're gonna need to get okay, hang on.
Where are you saying this was?
Okay, so you did do npm init though first, right? Before, and you just hit enter all the way through it. Yeah, so you should have in your desktop Electron folder, you should have a new file called package.json, and that's what you're going to want to open up. Alright, and if you made the same mistake I did, which was that you named your workspace directory Electron, then what happened was your package.json file will start off with name Electron, and that'll conflict when you try to install the Electron package. So before you try to install Electron, you do have to replace name Electron with something else like Electron Codelab. Yeah, so that's my bad. I didn't do proper testing on that beforehand. I didn't know that that was a possible result, but that is the fix. So after you replace the name up here, this name property, with something else, then you can try npm install -- save Electron again, and you'll be able to, you'll see that there'll be the Electron in your dependencies. You'll also have this package lock.json file over here, and you should be good to go. Then you do need to replace that test script with this new Electron script. Are we good? Are we clear at this point?
That's still fine.
Okay, so what is that?
He's using that.
Okay, so you installed Electron in your programs folder. Is that where you want it?
Yeah.
It will be scroll down. You've got package.json. That's where we're. Oh, I'm sorry. All right, cool. Yeah. So that took a little longer than I was expecting overall, but we'll be good. Cool. So at this point, you should be ready to start actually programming some Electron stuff. So in your workspace directory, what we're going to do, you see how there's this main index.js? Node by default assumes that your main file is going to be called index.js. So in this same directory, we're going to create a new file, and we're just going to save it as index.js. So you can see I'm in my workspace. I'm creating index.js. Cool. And at this point, this is when I really want to start doing a little bit of copy-paste, just to kind of speed things along. So right now I'm on, it should be page 2, which says creating an Electron app. So if I'm at the root, hang on, so if I'm at the root of the repository, I clicked creating an Electron app here, number 2. And I'm scrolling down to like the first colorful code segment here, which starts with const electron. I'm just copying that whole code snippet into my index.js. And I've saved. So this is going to be effectively the hello world of Electron desktop apps. Have y'all been able to get to this point? Just fine. Alright, I do intend to explain what's going on here with this code, but first I want to show you that this code does indeed work. So I'm in my terminal now, and because we created that Electron script, we can now do npm run Electron. If you had named your script something else, then you would be replacing Electron with that name of the script, right? So if I had gone foo : Electron dot, then this would be npm run foo. So that's how that's all playing out. So I run it, and as we can see, we have a window. It's a blank, boring window, but we have our first window. I will show you, this is actually a window of the Chromium browser, and one really fun way that you can see that is by if you go to View, you can hit Toggle Developer Tools, and congrats, you have access to the same dev tools you have on Google Chrome. It's awesome. It's really important because you're basically doing web development, right? So you need the same tools to succeed and to debug as you would use in web development. Right now, it's complaining that DevTools is connected. That's because we haven't actually loaded any HTML pages. Cool. But this is boring, right? This is not a great app. We have a window. Said window does nothing. So let's fix that. First of all, I'm going to cancel my desktop app using Control-C. Cool. Now I'm in index.js, and I can go main window dot load URL. And to start off with, I do want to just for fun put in an actual web URL. So I'm going to put in Google. You don't have to do that along with me. I just kind of want to show you just how easy this is. And congrats, guys! We made a web app or a desktop app. We created a Google app. It's that easy. I mean, no, it's not really that easy, but yeah, we just loaded the Google web page in our app. It's pretty great. But that doesn't help us terribly because we wanted to load our HTML pages. So for this, I'm actually going to recommend another copy paste. I'm going to recommend that you scroll down to here. And we're just going to copy paste this. And I do want you to notice, it's kind of hard to tell from the projector here, and it's probably hard to tell on the stream as well. We're actually using backticks here. Instead of single quotes, we're using backticks. That is JavaScript's way of allowing you to inject variables into our strings. And the variable specifically that we're injecting is __dir name, which is given to us by Node. It's just a stand-in there for the current directory. So I'm replacing what we've got here with that. Save. I'm running my app again, and this time it's loading the web page we want. Are we good at this point? Any questions as far anything in the stream chat that I'm missing?
You said you didn't find his script, and then he asked if index.js is the one to run.
So if you can't find the script, my guess is that what happened is in your package.json file, you didn't actually replace your test script with this Electron script. So you want to create a script called Electron, and that script is going to be Electron space dot. And what this does, Node automatically, when it looks at that dot that it gets, it automatically assumes that that's going to be the main file. And so it's going to automatically assume that what you mean is index.js. So that's why we're doing it this way. We create this electron.script that we call Electron, and that's what enables us to run npm electron. So hopefully that answers the question. All right. Cool. So yeah, I do want to briefly explore what it is that our index.js file is doing so far. So if you've ever had to import a library for a programming language, this is very analogous to that. This is specifically for Node. Node, every package kind of exports a module that you can then import into your project using this require command. So we're looking at the Electron package, and we're getting whatever module is in the Electron package, and we're saving it in the Electron variable. And then we're pulling a couple of very helpful objects and classes off of that Electron variable. So this is called destructuring what we've got here. So we have this electron.app, right? The Electron object has an app object associated with it, and we're just storing that in app. The Electron object also has a browser window class that you can pull off, and so we're pulling that off too. And we're storing the app object and the browser window class in their respective variables. JavaScript is a very event-driven language. Things happen in reaction to other events. So the app object is kind of this manager object that handles the general life cycle of the Electron application. So one of the ready-made events, one of the preset events that it has access to, that it listens for, is called ready. And that's kind of when Electron is initializing everything. It's like, okay, well, I've initialized enough things. We're ready to do whatever your app wants to do. And so we have our app object. We're telling it to listen for the ready event. And then we're going to pass it a function. So if you've never worked in JavaScript, one fun thing is that you can actually pass functions around to other functions, so like pass functions as parameters. So here we're passing it a function. The contents of these braces are the instructions that get executed by the function. And so in there, we're saying basically whenever your app is ready to start up, we're going to create a new browser window. We're calling it main window, and then we're loading our index.html file. So that is, at its heart, what this looks like to start off with. But we might want to have several windows, right? Like we're kind of declaring that there should be a main window and an add window. And multi-window functionality really isn't that hard. However, because we want the add window to only pop up under certain circumstances, I'm actually going to have the act of creating the add window in its own separate function. And that is, so at this point, we can go down to page 3. As you can see, we've got this handy function here, create add window. We're going to copy that. We're going to go into index.js. We're just going to copy that down here. So now we've got this app.onReady, and we've got this create add window. And this is doing pretty much the same stuff we've already done, right? We're creating a new browser window. We're loading an HTML page in it. We're also, just for aesthetics, I guess, not going to allow it to have a menu. And also, this is just a neat line to kind of deallocate the memory whenever you close the window. So that way there isn't just some add window hogging up memory when there's no window there, actually. Cool. So the next thing we want is to have the option to actually load the window. And I decided that for this app, it would look best if we could do that via a menu. So let's add a menu. So first of all, we need to destructure the menu class off of the Electron object. So that's going to be const menu equals electron.menu. Mind the capitalization here, because this is a class, we do have a capital M right here. Yeah. Then, cool. So the way menus in Electron work is you establish a template. This template is actually just going to be a JavaScript array. So we can, again, just copy this from down here. You're going to want to copy where it says const menu template here. You're just going to want to copy this. And you can see the nested structure of this menu start to unfold, right? You've got an array, so it's going to be a list of these objects. These objects store what should the menu item name be. If it's a drop-down, you'll have this awesome like sub-menu element in it. And so you can see this nested structure take shape, but this is where like syntax gets really, really finicky. So that's why if you're typing along, I'm just gonna seriously recommend like this time for sure, just copy paste it. It's gonna make things so much easier. Yeah. So now we've got this template, which is an array, and we need to tell Electron to actually convert this menu template into a menu. So what we're going to do, again, we can copy some lines, and this is probably something you could type if you're so inclined, but we don't need to. So we're back in app.onReady, and here we just copy paste this in. So we're creating a main menu object. We're doing menu.build from template, menu template, so it's getting this thing here, and it's finicking with that so that I can create a menu object, and then it's setting the entire application's menu to main menu. At this point, we can save and we can run our app again. And you can see this time we have a different menu, right? Previously, there was a bit of a preset menu that gave us a lot of different features like access to the dev tools. But now it just says file, and then you can hit add to do, and our add to do window pops up. I do want to make a note here. If you're on Mac, menus work a little differently. The first element in the menu for an Electron app on a Mac will always get kind of subsumed into, where there's like typically that application name menu, right? So you'll see a little menu in there up in your top bar called Electron, and that's where the contents of your file menu are right now. So that's kind of a caveat for Mac. There are hacks and workarounds for that, but if you're following along from your Mac, that's why you don't see file. All that stuff is now right under your Electron menu. Any questions at this point? Cool. Yeah. Another thing we can do, I do want to, I'll close out of this, I do want to kind of explore a little fun bit where we can customize the initial values for a window. So you can see whenever we're creating a new browser window, we're actually passing it an empty object, right? That's what these curly braces are doing. We're passing it an empty object. And this object is where we can define a couple properties that we're interested in the window being initialized with. Otherwise, it's just going to stick to defaults. So I'm going to say that I want my add window to be 400 pixels. Let's say height can be 225 pixels, and we can also set it to where the user can't actually resize our window. All for that great, super intuitive experience. So I'm going to run this again, and we'll actually get to see kind of a marked difference here. We can see our add window is now smaller, and also I'm completely unable to resize the window. Yeah. So any questions at this point? All right. Cool. So we're moving on to page 4. This is about something called inter-process communication. So right now we have up to 2 windows, right? We have our list window the list of to-dos, and we have the add to-do window. And currently, these windows can't speak to each other in any way, which is a shame because if we wanted to add a to-do, we would assume that somehow the add to-do window would communicate to that main list window, right? And so here's where we introduce inter-process communication. So Electron defines two different kinds of processes. The first is the main process, and this is everything that we're touching on in the index.js file. It is the main application, right? But the main process is going to spawn several child processes, and these processes are called renderers. So each browser window that we load up is a renderer. And so, kind of fun feature of Electron that's a lot of pain. Renderers can only communicate to main windows, and main windows can only communicate to renderers. Or sorry, not main windows, main processes. The main process can only communicate to the renderer, and the renderer can only communicate to the main process. And so that means you can't just communicate directly from the renderer to another renderer. So our add window isn't going to be able to talk to the main window. It's instead going to have to talk to the grand overseeing application, and the grand overseeing application is going to have to forward that message along to the to-do list window. And so there's kind of 4 parts along this timeline. The first possible part is the renderer thinks, hey, there's a message I need to send out. So the renderer is going to send out a message. The next part along that process is that the main process, it receives that message, and it decides what to do with it. And then the next step to that would be that the main process decides to send out another message. So we're at this point along the timeline. And then the other renderer receives that message. So there's 4 parts along that timeline, and I have notes in here for kind of how you deal with each of those 4 parts, because Electron's kind of confusing when it comes to inter-process communication, and legitimately nothing is consistent, and that's probably my least favorite part of Electron. So I have notes about how you handle each of those 4 points along the timeline, and we're actually going to see that in action. So again, just kind of explaining what we're trying to do at this stage, right? We have our add to-do window, and the user's going to type in some name of the to-do, and then they're going to hit submit. And at this point, the add to-do window is going to light up, and it's going to be like, oh, I know what to do here. I need to send this new to-do to the grand overarching main process, my parent process. And the parent process, that main process, is going to receive this message. And it's going to go, oh, I know what to do. I need to forward this message along to the to-do list window. And the to-do list window is going to receive that message, and it's going to update its list accordingly. Does that process kind of make sense? Cool. So let's have some fun actually doing this. So stage 1, the add to-do window is going to issue an event. So for this, we're actually, oh, I still have this up. For this, we're actually going to go into add.html. So that's where we are right now. I want you to kind of tell, we have this script section here. We're running JavaScript in there. If you've never done web development, this is one way you can incorporate JavaScript into an HTML page, is between the script tags. Probably more reasonably, you would be offloading this into a different .js file, but I desperately wanted to minimize how many files we're actually working with. So that's why we're doing probably the most irresponsible thing, which is just using script tags. It's really convenient. Cool. So we have this, and we can actually start importing Electron in it. So first of all, it's going to be const Electron equals require Electron. This gives us that Electron module from the Electron package. And we're also going to want, we could just copy paste this, but we also want this const IPC renderer equals electron.ipc renderer. So what we've done here, we've gotten the Electron module, we've stored it in a variable, and then we've pulled off this object called IPC renderer from the Electron module. And it's this IPC renderer object that knows how to send messages to the main process. Cool. So also we have this event here. This whole thing, in summary, is just basically whenever the user tries to submit the form, do whatever is in these brackets, right? So right now we're just stopping the page from refreshing. That's what this event.prevent default is doing. But we figure probably whenever the user hits the submit button, that's probably a good time to send the to-do away. So again, if you want to join me in copying and pasting, we're just going to pull out this right here. Cool. So the IPC renderer object has this send function. This send function, first and foremost, needs an event name. Now, create to do one here, this is totally arbitrary. We could put whatever we wanted in here. We could put foo in there if we so desired. Whatever your heart desires. I chose this name because it describes what it is we're trying to do, and this is the first kind of the first part of the to-do creation process. It's looking in the to-do name text box. That's where you put the name, and it's pulling the value. So right now it's sending two values here, right? It's sending, this is what we're calling the event name, and this is the contents of the text box at this moment. And yeah, cool. And that's all we really need to worry about on the add window renderer's standpoint. So the next thing on that timeline, the main process needs to receive this event. So we're going to jump back to index.js, and we're going to need to pull off another thing, and that is const IPC main equals electron.ipc main. So just as IPC renderer was the object that knew how to send messages to the main process, IPC main is the object that knows how to receive those. So now that we've got it, we can use it to our heart's content. And so we're just going to copy paste this bit here where it says IPC main.on. We're just going to copy that. And let's see, where did I put it? Yeah, we can just put this underneath app.onReady. So in short, what this is doing is just saying, hey, our main process, it's got access to IPC main, so it's going to start waiting. We're telling it to wait for this create to do one event. This name should be the same as whatever you put in the add.html event sending. And it's going to receive a couple parameters. First of all, it's always going to receive this event parameter that handles just a bunch of metadata about which process sent the event and all that kind of stuff. We're not concerned with it, but we still have to handle it as a parameter, so we just kind of put it in there even if we're not doing anything with it. But the other parameter that we sent was the contents of that name box. And so here we're receiving that as the parameter name. And right now, all we're doing, we're not even handling that event that much. All we're doing is we're just saying, hey, when you receive this create to do event, just go ahead and close that add window. And so I do want to kind of show you, before we get too far ahead, that at least this far in the inter-process communication timeline is functioning. That way we can make sure that we're not breaking anything. Cool. So we can go to File, Add to do. Oh, it's there. I just clicked away. So we've got this. Cool. So we can put in something like hello, And if all goes as planned, when we hit submit, this add to do window should close, and that's it. Boom. We're well on our way to a fine application. Mission accomplished, right? No, not quite. We still want the main process to alert this to-do list window. Hey, you've got a new to-do. What gives? Why isn't it already on the list? So let's have some fun with that. Now here's where syntax gets really inconsistent. Because for the main process to issue an event, it doesn't look like IPC main.send. It can never be that easy. Instead, it's going to use the main window's web contents property for whatever reason. It's astonishing. So we're just going to copy this one line here. You see where it says main window.webcontents.send create to do to name. And we're just going to put that where this to-do comment was. So here you can see we're actually creating a second event. This has some other unique name, right? And for the contents of, or for this intents and purposes, we're just calling it create to do to. If you wanted that to be something else, go ahead and change it to something else. I highly encourage creativity. And we're also going to send it this name property, and that's the same name that we're receiving here, which, if you remember in add.html, was the contents of that to-do name text box. So right now, whenever we receive the create to do one event in our main process, we're just going to pass it along, basically. We're creating a create to do two event that also carries with it the name, and we're just sending that event directly to main window, which main window is what's loading index.html. Cool. So now, the next step in that process, the last step in the inter-process communication process is we go back to index.html here. That's what's loading our to-do list. And at this point, we've seen similar stuff to this before. We need const electron equals require electron const IPC render equals electron dot IPC renderer. And we also have, we're just going to copy this function here, this IPC renderer dot on create to do to. We're just going to put that, I mean, it doesn't even really matter where, let's just put it here. So now our index.html file, it now has this IPC renderer object, and that IPC renderer object is waiting until it receives this create to do to event. And when it gets that, it's just going to call that add item function that we've defined down here. And all that does is it just adds that item to the list, and then it refreshes the HTML table. And so, alright, cool. So we're going to run this again. And if all has gone according to plan, we can do add to do. And let's put testing IPC, submit. And finally, our to-do list adds to-dos. Cool. So at this point, I'm not sure we necessarily have time to get into the next page, which was going to be that bit. You see how earlier we had it to where this app was kind of residing in the this taskbar tray here. If you're interested in that, I do have notes for that. Oh, by the way, I do have also here at the bottom of page 4, I do have current state of the code. So if at some point you've gotten lost and just kind of don't know where to get back in, I do have where the code looks like right now. If you're interested in making your application an applet that exists in the tray, that's what page 5 would be for. That's not that much. Do you guys want to go for it or no? Show of thumbs. Go for page 5? Cool. I'm seeing more thumbs. We've got time. Sure. So, tray applets. What we're going to do, first of all, we have to once again pull off a property. So we're going to, we're back in index.js. We're up here with all the consts, and we're going to pull off the tray class. So that's const tray equals electron.tray. Again, because there's a class, this T right here very specifically has to be capitalized. So then the next thing we would do is we can just pull this let tray chunk here that we've got. Here. So what this is going to do, you're creating a new tray object. You pass in one parameter, which is, all tray applets need an icon. So here we're just passing it the file name to the check icon that I gave you as part of the resources folder. So we're creating that. We're also making it here to where if you hover over the tray icon down here, it'll kind of give you a tooltip that says to-dos. And we're giving this tray an event to wait for, which is on the click event. Another thing that we need to do is, let's see. Oh, well, we can go ahead and give this a test right now, I think. So running this, and it still pops up, but you can see that now we've got this handy to-dos check mark in the bottom corner. Interesting. We've got this check mark here at the bottom of my screen. So if I minimize this, I can actually click this and it pops up my window again. Thank you, Jacob. Cool. So then I decided that it'd probably be best if we kind of cleaned up the interface a bit. Since we've got the tray icon, then we can just have it to where the user right-clicks the tray icon to pop up a little menu that's like, hey, do you want to add a to-do? But to do that, we need to make some changes to our menu. And to do that, we need to make changes to menu template. So we're going to come down here. We're just going to replace that. And all this does, we've got this add to-do label that when clicked will create the add window. And we've got a quit label so that we can actually easily close our app. And then we do need to make some changes back up in here where we probably don't want to call this main menu. It's probably now context menu. And let's see, is there other stuff? Oh, I do need to do tray.set context menu. So now I can close out of this again. And now if I right click this, you can see we've got our handy add to do quit menu down here. Lots of fun. And we can also make a handful of preferences here, like, if we've already got loaded up in the tray, we probably don't want it to just pop up with the to-do window immediately. So, I've got a handful of properties that we can just kind of explore here. So we're just going to copy this into the main window. So now we're running it again. The main window doesn't immediately pop up, but we still do have our, oh, it's hidden there. We do have our to-dos applet. I can click this, it pops up. I can right click this, I can hit quit. It all works like a charm. And that is the basis of tray applets. Cool. So I just kind of wanted to give you guys an overview of Electron, kind of what makes it tick, how different processes communicate with each other. But ultimately, I think Electron is just a really fun technology to explore, and there are so many things you can do. Like, for one thing, I don't know if you noticed, but every time you closed and reloaded the app, the to-do app that we created, it completely started over our to-dos. And that's because we're currently not doing any file input-output for our to-dos. So maybe over the next few days, if you're interested in tinkering around with this app, maybe that's something you can work on to improve this app. Maybe you could implement some sort of due date functionality or notifications or percent complete. Maybe you even want to create an installer for this app so that your users don't have to go through the command line. They can just open like a shortcut, kind of like this shortcut I've got for an app I created a while back. Right, that's a lot more convenient than going through the command line. So maybe you want to work on creating an installer. Maybe you want to create your own new Electron app. Maybe a weather app, something else that you might use in your day-to-day life. I highly encourage it. And so one thing I would like, if you guys are interested in, we have an ACM off-topic chat. So we kind of have two chats. One's for announcements, but we have one that's more for discussion-based. And if over the course of the week you guys want to just kind of tinker around in Electron, maybe with this app, maybe with some other application of your own design, by all means, go ahead and work on that. And then join the off-topic chat if you're not already in it. And just kind of show us what you've got, what you've been working on. I know I'd love to see it, and I think others would be too. Would be interested in seeing that too. Do we have any questions at this point? I haven't checked the chat in ages.
No.
No. Okay. It looks like we're cool. Yeah. Any questions? Anything y'all are curious about Electron? Kind of the ins and outs of it. Why we did things one way or another. I know it's kind of a crash course. But these notes are going to stay available. The stream is going to stay available, so if you need, you can use it all as review.
We got a question in the chat. Somebody said, is there a way to keep the add menu with the main window instead of just on the tray?
Yeah, so kind of what we did here, you could do, yeah, it would be something like, streaming, sure, why not? Cool. We should be back. Okay, cool. We're back. We are back, and I'm gonna not create infinite recursions here. Cool. So we had a question about just making it so that the add window, the menu only fixes to the kind of that main window, and hopefully kind of this fix. Yeah, this fix should work. So we've got this add to do. We've got quit. So I don't know if the stream cut out too early, but if you're interested, what we did there was instead of doing menu.set application menu, we specifically did main window.set menu. Cool. Any other questions, stream or otherwise? Okay. Anything else I can kind of explain for you in the vein of Electron? Alright, well, cool. I do want to talk to you real quick about some things that we've got coming up. Cool. So, if you liked what you saw here at ACM, we have meetings every Wednesday, 5:30 to 6:30, right here. Next week, we have a guy named Jeffrey Simpson coming. You may not have heard of Jeffrey Simpson, but he is really, really cool. He's an alumnus of our CS department, and this year he was recognized as our distinguished alumnus for this department. So he has a lot of experience starting startups, and so he's going to be talking to us next week at this meeting. He's going to be talking a lot about development in the startup experience. If you're interested in more Codelabs, Valentine's Day, we're going to be talking about, I guess, kind of web API development using Node and Express. I believe we're going through the process of building a dating site. So it's fitting. You got to do something for February 14th, right? Why not build a dating site? I mean, that's a romantic date, right? Also, March 3rd through 4th, we have Hacklahoma. That's happening in OU. We're really excited about it. We want to send a delegate. So if you're interested in building stuff over 24 hours using Electron or otherwise, let us know. Also, March 7th, we're having a Codelab for front-end web development, web application development, using my favorite, React and Redux. So those are some of the things to look forward to. But again, we meet every Wednesday here at 5:30. So yeah, that's been the ACM. If you want to keep up on our announcements, just find any of the officers. We've got, I'm the president. We've got Andrew here's the vice president. Hannah's the treasurer. And Ethan is the secretary. Come hit up any of us and we can get you added to our announcement chat so that you get our announcements. Thank you guys for showing up. I'll go ahead and hang up the stream now. But it's been real.
Yeah, cool.